Welcome food fans, picky eaters, the flavor curious, and everyone in between. Nothing makes good food better than good conversation. And your table is ready. Come right this way to the Food For ThoughtCast with your host, Melissa Reagan. But you can call her Chef. All right, let's get this episode started.
As a chef and a person who loves all kinds of food, I'm always looking for ways that I can emphasize quality over quantity without feeling like I'm missing out or depriving myself of the things that I love. And I love pasta. Carbonara, mac and cheese, primavera, cacio e pepe, you name it and I'm all about it. That's why I choose Bonza. Bonza is the pasta made from chickpeas, which means it has more protein, more fiber, and I believe more flavor than regular old pasta. Seriously, if you go in my pantry right now, there are 2 boxes in there awaiting their next culinary adventure. Bonza has over 12 different kinds of pasta, including penne, rotini, elbows, and cavatappi, which is my favorite, because all of those curves and ridges hold even more delicious sauce. Bonza also makes pizza crust, which tastes too good to believe that it comes from peas. You can find Bonza at Whole Foods, Target, and Walmart. Hey there, food fans. Welcome back to the Food For ThoughtCast with me, your host, Melissa Reagan. But as always, you can call me Chef. I hope you are having an amazing week. And speaking of amazing, I just got back from an amazing trip to Disney World in Orlando, Florida. So for episode 30 of the Food For ThoughtCast, I'd like to take you, the listeners, on your own trip for a little podcast inception. That's right, a pod within a pod. You see, this week I had the great honor of being a guest on the Main Street Electrical Podcast, a podcast full of Disney wonder, news, and pop culture with hosts Jenn and David Dollar. This podcast is fantastic, and I strongly recommend adding it to your listening rotation. Its episodes also drop every Thursday. So maybe if this is your first time hearing it, come for me and stay for the rest. We're talking about all the things I ate in Disney World. I have to take a moment to first let you know that the Food For ThoughtCast podcast is made possible by not only my listeners, hey, that's you, sometimes adrenaline and caffeine as well, but largely the support of David Dollar, Mikey, Chew Bubba, Aussie Nate, Matt Mink, Brian E., Coach DeBello, Jacob Roth from Wyoming, Craig Harmon, Charlie Wooten, Garrison, Rhett, Jonathan Heil, and Dr. Earl, and a smattering of others. You see, it was this group, it was their feedback and encouragement that helped me start this podcast in the first place. So today, I'll be linking to all of their podcasts in the show notes for today's episode as well. Thank you so much to my Discord family and to you, the listeners. Just like the outro voiceover says every week, you are what makes this show special. Enjoy.
And now, welcome to the show, our good friend, fan of the show, and podcast host of her own right. It's the Food For ThoughtCast host, Melissa Reagan, back from her solo trip down to Disney World. Hi, Melissa.
Hi, how's it going?
Welcome to the show. And we have so many questions for you because anybody who's a fan of Melissa, her show, or has followed Melissa on social media has seen the dozens of pictures you posted. I love the fact you posted like in front of every ride. You're like, I'm doing this ride.
That
now,
was
I'm doing
amazing.
that ride, which I think is great because a lot of people don't do that. They're like, people don't want to see me post, but no, and your time hop is you're gonna love your time hop in the years to come.
Yeah, it's gonna be great.
You'll see all this stuff. But you got to go down on a solo trip. So let me ask you first, Melissa, solo trip. How was it taking a trip by yourself? Because I don't know if you were a little timid to begin with about going by yourself, but how was it?
I wasn't timid as much as I really didn't understand how fast I could move through the parks. You mentioned it, but like it just like I would get to 2 PM and be like, well, I wrote everything. What do I do now? I'm like, oh, okay, I have all this time. Like, I don't understand what to do. It seemed like a really daunting task, right? To figure out where to be and be there on
Mhm.
time. And do you want to rope drop this? And do you want to use a lightning lane for that? But man, by the second day, it's like you said in your itinerary, like you'll be a pro and you got it. And then it was really just smooth sailing from there. I never felt, I'll put it like this, like as a lady traveling alone, I really felt very safe
Good.
on the resort property.
Good.
So
Good.
it was awesome.
Now, for Jen, rope dropping is the term used when people show up before the park opens, and they get
More
into
about
the park.
this is very interesting.
I know, because your idea of rope dropping is like, well, if I make it by noon, I guess that's rope drop. And so, but Jen and Brady, they don't have children either. And Jen, you two are able to move pretty fast through the parks too, whenever you guys really want to.
Exactly. When we want to, we can we can fly through things. It's just we normally don't want to get up that early.
I did it for 2 days, and then the subsequent 2 days, I was like, no, we're not doing this.
That.
I mean, I get it. I get the excitement. I think there was like 8 people in front of me at Animal Kingdom when I got there. It was really amazing, and I strategize like I'm going to be in the leftmost line so I can curve around that, and go over to a flights of passage. And I did it and everything. Right. But then you get halfway through the day and you're like, I think I could have got here at 10.
And Jen's like, yes, we could have.
But then again, but the earlier you get there, like the less hot it is. Right. So then you have the opportunity to move around a little bit without being just gross.
Because it gets so gross.
Well, and Jen, obviously, it's tough to be a bug. You really have a line nearly all day. So you're able to ride that pretty much anytime you want to. So she just shows up whenever she wants. So.
You know what?
Staying at Pop Century, of course. Give us a quick resort review. How much did you love Pop, or how much did you like Pop?
Okay, so this was my third Disney property to stay in, or my third time at Disney, I should say. And I had only stayed at All Star Music and All Star Sports before that. And I love those, David, but I think it's gonna be Pop or Art of Animation or like or nothing, because the Skyliner or Upward,
or the Grand.
Well, when they finish the construction, right? Like there's construction right now, right?
Yeah. In the main building, they're finishing that up.
Yeah, no, I was just talking to my brother. I was like, we got to go back. I have a twin brother, and it's like, we got to go together. I want to stay in the Contemporary next time. Let's start saving now. No, but Pop was like, the buildings are super cute. The theming is awesome. I found myself taking pictures of every single building and the pool, and super clean, really nice room. I really loved it. And you're right, the Skyliner is awesome. I just didn't even. I don't know how long I thought it was going to take to get there, but it didn't. It was like, oh, I'm here. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Melissa would message me along the way, different parts of the trip and everything. And one of the things she messaged me was like late at night going to this across the Skyliner. And Jen, I don't know. And I'm saying this seriously. I don't know that you would know this, because I don't know if you've ever taken the Skyliner to Pop Century. But when you're coming back late at night, I know. Do you even know Pop exists? When you're coming back late at night across that water, it's dark. It is super dark. And I was the only one in the Skyliner when I did it, and it was like 11 o'clock at night. Parks already been closed, and everybody had already gone back to the room, and I was headed back to Pop and going across that water. And I'm like, if we get stuck, I'm just here. I don't know that anybody would even know I'm here. I mean, it's nobody will miss me.
So you see those videos on social media of like the people ride the Ferris wheel at Disneyland, and you have the option of the car that moves or it doesn't.
Yeah.
This was my first time to ever ride the Skyliner, and that was my biggest fear. I was like, if this rocks back and forth, I will be buying an Uber into the parks, because I cannot deal with this. It's like, but it didn't. It was smooth. And it wasn't scary like I thought it would be. But like, man, that first time you get on it, you're like, what's going on?
It's so relaxing to me. It's so peaceful. And I love it. I mean, I do Skyliners whenever I can. And if somebody wants a value resort, that's what I book them, as Pop Century. Little Mermaid, maybe, but Art of Animation, the Mermaid rooms, if they want Pop, they might want Mermaid, but those are across the entire resort.
Those are pretty far.
Pop is just like right there. So
now I have it figured out. I didn't know that I would have a choice of room. I was like, it's anything's fine, because I didn't know. Right now I'm like, okay, now I want this building that's next to these walkways that goes right, to the Skyliner first. But I couldn't say enough good things about it. Like, I really enjoyed it. And I'm glad you talked me into it, because
good.
It was 100% worth it.
Good. Well, Jen was like, make her stay Grand Floridian. I can't make her stay Grand Floridian. I'm trying, but it just, I have to be Pop Century.
And Jen, you can write the check out to.
Yeah.
Oh, when you stay at Grand, you and Jen will just do an episode on your own, because all you'll do will be all the whole episode will be, did you see this? Oh, I love this. Oh, I love this too. This is so great. That's all. The entire episode will be just that.
Basically.
Yes.
So also, let's talk about the attractions. We'll get to the food in a minute, because that's really what I want to spend some time on. But talk about the attractions. Some of your favorite attractions. I know you've probably been on a lot of them, but some of you probably never been on. And again, with a Skyliner, you're a little queasy here and there. You can't take the big rides all the time, so you have to prepare for them. Rides that stood out, things that you were surprised that you loved, things you were like, yeah, you know what? I don't know that I'll do that one again.
So, at first, Space Mountain wasn't running, and so I thought I'll just skip this. It was down for most of the day, and I didn't end up riding it, because I kind of got a little taste of, like, there were a couple rides that I think I remember. The last time I was there was 6 years ago, and before that was 20 years. And so, experiencing it as an adult and experiencing, Tower of Terror, I probably won't do it if I go back. I can't do it.
I love that one though.
It's not as magical as I remember. And at the end of the day, after I had ridden everything else in Magic Kingdom, our mutual friend that was there, like, he messaged me and he was like, "Hey, Space Mountain is back up." And I was like, I don't think so. I'm too old. I can't do it. I can't do it. But I will say, Galaxy's Edge wasn't completed the last time I was there. So
Rise wasn't there.
That Rise of the Resistance and the Smuggler's Run, like, those were super fun. Remy's, of course, like, that's a huge favorite. And then Tron and Guardians were not there. So, I mean, those things were incredible. And I had a little bit of, like, trepidation. I was like, ugh. Like, when you return for your virtual queue for Tron and you're, like, in that pavilion and you're looking up at the track, you're like, oh my gosh. And the lady next to me said it was like her 10th time to ride it. And I was like, well, I think I have to close my eyes for this first part, but I didn't. I made myself, and then, I don't really do inversions all that well either. But dude, I kept my eyes open the entire time at Rock and Roller Coaster and super enjoyed it. Because it's something about, like, I don't know, the rides feel really safe and it feels like they've taken everything into account. And I don't know, it's something also is like, I'm going to get my money's worth. But I paid all this money, like, can't just not.
And I think you're right. You touched on that. I think the rides are designed to help minimize a lot of that. Because Rock and Roller Coaster, yes, there's inversions, but it's indoors. The music is going, the lights are going, the black lights. So it's almost like you don't even know you're going upside down unless you're just, like, looking everywhere, which I've done before because I've done it so many times. Now I'm like, what's new? What can I see that I haven't seen?
Right.
So there is that. And Tron, it's such a, I don't want to say gentle ride, but it's such a smooth attraction. And it starts off fast. It does slow down a little bit and then kind of picks up again. And I think even for people who get a little queasy, I feel like Tron is something that could be easily
But it's
done.
also short.
Yes.
It's not like
1 minute long.
Because it's 1 minute long. So it's like you don't have quite time for your brain to register.
It's a really fun minute though. And as I was on the ride, I was like, you're in here so tight that I don't feel like anything, I don't feel as exposed as, like, in a sit down roller coaster. And then I started to think, I was like, this is kind of like riding a 4-wheeler really fast. And so
that same position. Yeah.
It's kind of a great way to, I don't know, it's just a different way to experience something. So, this was the first time I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to please finish. This is the first time that
this is the first time I'd ever ridden Small World, because when I was a kid, I was like, I hate this song. I don't like it. It's going to be lame. It's just, I was like, oh man, this is an awesome place to cool down when it's hot. This is a really long ride. The ride is longer than the queue. I like this.
Oh yeah.
It was so cute. It was so cute.
And it typically gets backed up. So even when the ride is over, you're stuck in that last room. It's like Pirates. You're stuck in that last room and or scene for probably 3 or 4 extra minutes because you're waiting for people to get off the boats.
But it's like so much fun. They have that room above it where people are dining. And so the kids were holding up the signs that say, like, make a silly face. And
you're like Pinocchio.
You're like making silly faces and the kids are like losing their minds. And if you can make somebody else's day great, then do that.
Well, and it's fun because the cast member that's in Small World that looking down upon the boats, they're always so happy and they're waving and they're like, how you doing? The cast member that does that at Pirates, very seldom will you get a smile out of them. I don't know if they're in character or they're just like, it's been dark and I've been in this dark room for 8 hours. I'm ready to leave.
Yeah.
I was so permanently happy for the entire trip, and I had this huge smile plastered on my face.
Love it.
And I'm in the service industry, and I'm always just like, how are you doing? I hope you're having a great day. And when you get on Haunted Mansion, you just can't, you can't. You're like, I mean, and they did a great job of staying in character. I was like, I'm so sad. I just want to make you smile right now. I don't understand why you're so
right.
Now, talk about Guardians. That's the one that I think a lot of people are unsure, because people are still experiencing it for the first time. And I have a lot of clients and guests ask me, how am I going to handle it? And honestly, the hardest part for Guardians for me is that when it goes around that globe towards the end of it.
Oh, yeah, the centrifugal force.
I liken it to the Gravitron. If you've ever done the Gravitron at the county fair when you were a kid, that's exactly how it feels, those centrifugal forces. How did you handle Guardians? Was it a one-timer? Was it okay?
No, I'll definitely do it again. So there are some rides at the state fair, or have been in the past in Texas, where the cars will move individually, like they do on Guardians. And I'm a super fan of that, as long as they're not spinning around too fast, right? Like I just kind of have a problem with like spinning. You'll never see me go on the teacups, and it's fine. But I just know what I could do and I know what I can't. But for Guardians, man, I had a blast the entire time. I think it's the combination of light and dark and the theming throughout kind of breaks up the experience to where you don't feel you can go like, even if you weren't okay with something, right? It lasts for like 2 or 3 seconds,
right?
But I think the way they move the people through is so smart. Like you have those 3 or 4 staging areas where it never really feels like you waited in line, which is part of the fun.
Yeah.
Right.
What was your song?
I got conga.
Okay.
So,
that's a
I
fun
that
one.
twice. I love conga.
I almost wanted to yell it out a la David Dollar, and I was like, I can't, because I'll look like an idiot if they don't.
I'll never do that again, because it will never work again. But and for the audience, the story she's talking about is my first time, maybe second time on Guardians.
Yeah,
I was like, let's go conga, and immediately conga started, and
it was hilarious.
It was beautiful. It was wonderful.
It's so awesome.
For the little tips out there, guys, if you guys are trying to ride Guardians, if you want to pick your line, obviously everybody wants the first row, which is great. Row 9 is wonderful.
Yep.
And if you want, like, I want the most easy part of this ride, row 5 and 6.
Yep, 5 and 6.
5 and 6. Right.
Yeah, 5 and 6.
There, kind of in the middle. That's the easiest part of Guardians. So just kind of put that in your back pocket as you ride around. So let's talk about the food now, Melissa. You are a chef, and so I kind of liken it to as a movie fan. I will approach movies a little differently than some other people, because I've seen so many, and I watch for tropes and I watch for things, and I will judge a Rob Schneider movie differently than I will judge a Martin Scorsese film, in the same way that you probably would judge a quick bite at Taco Bell versus something at Haleo. So
look, you saying it right.
How do you approach like signature dining, big dining? I mean, is it you know what? I don't care. I'm gonna put all that aside. My professionalism aside, I'm just gonna enjoy it. I mean, do you look for things? Do you pick up on things like immediately, like automatically default to, I'm looking for these things to happen or whatever? How do you look at meals like that?
Yeah, so I wasn't really sure. I kind of knew going in what I wanted. So I used to work at a Spanish restaurant, and I had this big affinity for Spanish food and tapas. And I kind of knew what to expect, but then also didn't. And when I'm traveling, I have there's a couple of little, hard and fast rules that I live by. If it's something I could make at home, then I'm not getting it on vacation. It's kind of like those funny, those reels you'll see going around social media, and people be like, we have that at home, or, whatever it is. Right. But it's like, I hot take, like I have fireworks here. I know, but also if you're moving through the parks alone, the fireworks time is a really good time to go do other things, because everybody's like, kind of, sucked into that, or they're looking for good seating or whatever. And it's a really good opportunity to go do other things. But as far as food is concerned, I have a bunch of friends who've been to Disney, and there are people commenting all over the place. And I'm like, you have to try this. And I'm like, nah, that's okay. Like, and it kind of made me feel like a jerk at some point. But yeah, if I can make it at home really easily, I'm not going on vacation to get it. And if it's something I've already had before, I'm less likely to order it on vacation, even if it's something like in a different format, right? So, for example, Be Our Guest Like they had French onion soup. I was like, yeah, I've had French onion soup about 15,000 times. Like, unless you're telling me that it comes in a Mickey shaped cauldron and I get to take it home with me, like what I'm always looking for the things that are unique and special.
Mm-hmm.
And I always like to experience first, if I'm traveling. So that's kind of how I approach it. And it's like you with movies, right? Like I will be looking for those telltale terms on menus where I go like, oh, they said this, but what it probably is this. And I don't think it takes any of the fun out of it. I'll give you an example. At Be Our Guest, I kind of thought everybody probably goes for the steak. I want to find that sleeper item on this menu.
Okay.
Like, I'm not going to order steak. I've eaten my weight in filet mignon in my life, right? Like I know that I like steak. Okay. I want to find that item that is going to sneak up on people and be like the hidden treasure on this menu. And for Haleo, they brought back the magical dining through October 1st, and it's $40 for the prefix menu. And I thought, well, that's cool, but I want to see what this Haleo experience is all about. I had no idea it was going to be 12 courses. I could have, in retrospect, I could have just asked.
Oh my gosh.
I could have just asked. So it was about course 4 where I was like in the clean plate club for like the first 4 plates, and then it just kept coming. And never in my life have I ever stared at a server and just been like, not me, not me, not me, not me. I'm like, where am I going to put this? I don't know. Like, I was just miserably full at the end. But you know what? I'd do it all over again. I'll do it all over again.
Well, and you mentioned firsts. So were there any firsts in terms of food this time around that you're like, I've never had this, or I've never tried this, or I've never seen this done before? Yeah.
So at Haleo, they have a supplement that you can add to any of the dining experiences, I assume, but it's Iberico ham. It's a 36 month old aged shoulder ham. So you think prosciutto is like the famous ham from Italy, right? Then there's jamon serrano from Spain, which is kind of the counterpart to that. Iberico is just a little bit different. It's aged a little bit longer. It's really buttery, melt in your mouth. Well, I had no idea that when I added it on as a supplement to my tasting experience, that they were going to come carve it at the table.
Oh my gosh.
So that's that big ham they roll around with. Is that, okay. That's awesome.
I was like, yes, this is amazing. Please sign me up for more of this. It was incredible. And I had never had it. I'd never tasted it.
That's cool.
So it was really cool. It was really awesome. And I think 11 out of 12 of the courses were winners. The mussels came. I just wasn't a fan. I already know I like mussels, so like really no loss there. And when you're doing 12 courses of something, don't feel obligated to eat every single bite, because these were huge portions. And one thing I wanted to ask is, sometimes when you order a tasting experience from other restaurants, they won't let you do it unless everybody at the table does it, because it breaks up the cadence for the kitchen. Like, it can really throw off the experience. Well, then likewise, I was wondering if they would let 2 people do it. Because I was like,
think Kyle and Frank did it together. So I think they would let people do it.
Because I jumped in the middle of that. I showed up and I was like, hey guys, how you doing? Nice. And Frank offered me food, and that's why I ate. He was like, would you like some? I was like, absolutely, I'd like some. So I kept just nibbling off Kyla's plate. And so, because next to me.
So the Iberico ham was an experience. I totally recommend that at Haleo. And then, there were a couple of curried items at Tusker House that I'd never tried before. I'd never tried that specific style of curry. Really impressed with that. And I think I messaged David that the pork chop at Be Our Guest was probably the best pork chop I've ever had.
That's really? Yeah. And I would never have ordered that.
It's saying a lot, because I used to work for Perry's Steakhouse, and they have a really good pork chop, but it's altogether different. It's a smoked item. This was insane. And it was like a good 2 inches thick too, and on the bone. It felt like an incredible value, and it was delicious. So
all right.
Yeah.
How did you enjoy Skipper's Canteen? I know you messaged me about that when you were going. So talk a little bit about that. I loved
it. Yeah. So I was really intrigued by the menu. It's kind of like a fusion of cuisine. And I had gotten a last minute, they had 1 reservation left the day that I was going to be there. It was like 8:35 at night. And I think, going into it, I thought, I'll order A, B, and C, or I'll order like 3 or 4 things so I can taste. So that's another thing I like to do on vacations too, is order a ridiculous amount of food just to taste everything. But by that time of the day, it had been raining, and I was just like, I was exhausted.
Right.
So I think that affected how I ordered. I ordered the curry stew because I needed something comforting because I was like soaked. And so, but I really enjoyed it. The server was fantastic. And I thought that the hummus and falafel plate was really, really delicious. And I love the way that it was presented. But yeah, I would go back there in a heartbeat. I want to try everything on the menu now. So
Skipper's Canteen, and honestly, when they first opened, the menu was a little more exotic than it is now. But of course, guests are boring sometimes, and there was a lot of pushback, and so that's when they kind of were incorporated more like, okay, let's put some chicken on here, let's do some chicken fingers for people who were boring, and But I figure like it's a hidden gem, and every time I go, and some of the food on there, like I'm not a big curry fan, I'm not a big spice food fan, but there are a lot of dishes on there that I do really enjoy. Jen, have you been to Skipper's Canteen? We may have been together. I have no idea.
We have been there, but it was like very soon after it opened, and I really liked my dish. Tastes like chicken because it is. Something like that. And then
which is the name of the dish, by the way. That is the name.
Literally was the name of the dish. Brady got some sort of like a mac and cheese with like, I don't know, gourmet mac and cheese. And I tasted it and the meat topping was just not to our liking. So I really liked my dish. He was like on his dish, and we just haven't been back, I think, because he didn't love his dish. I'm like, but they've changed the menu. We should go back. Like
they made the menu boring for people like you, Brady.
No, I will say, like, I'm a mac and cheese person. It was not the best mac and cheese on property. Okay, like I've had good mac and cheese on property. That particular dish was just like, okay,
right. So. Skipper's is one of those. I love Skipper's because it's the location of one of our most magical moments. We, of course, our child has a very strict diet. We kind of do his, we do non-dairy, we do non-sugar if we can get away with whatever. And the desserts on there on the menu were just none of them he really could eat. Talked to the server, and Stephanie, my wife, had already contacted, which for people looking for allergies going on a trip, it's a great idea to contact the restaurants, and your travel agent, Pick Us, can always give you the information to contact the restaurants in advance. We had the chef come out or whatever. And so they were like, well, let's figure out what we can do for desserts. And one of the servers had gone from Skipper's Canteen using the utilidors to Liberty Street Tavern to get a flourless, sugarless brownie cupcake for him, brought it back from another restaurant to him to eat. And he devoured it, of course. And just such a magical moment that like we didn't ask for it. We didn't have to do that or anything. And they're like, we want to make sure that he can eat something, besides just a little bag of cookies or whatever. And it was great. It was wonderful. So had a good time with that. But
yeah, they're so nice and so thoughtful. And I loved hearing every server around every single place I went, right? Like the first thing they ask is, do you have any allergies? And I think it's so responsible of Disney, as a brand. I love that. I love that kind of personalized service, and they do it so well. Yeah, they do it so well.
Didn't you say at Skipper's because they realized you were a solo adult, they were able to make some jokes that maybe weren't quite as family friendly?
Yeah. And so, it was really funny. I'm all about some puns in my life, and
I'm not familiar.
The first thing I do when I sit down is like, well, if you're Skipper, where's Barbie? That got the guy laughing, and so he had a really long day, and sometimes you just have to know your audience, right? Like there were moments where I just wanted to talk to a cast member, and they were kind of on stage and they were playing their role and everything. But sometimes, it's nice for them to have an adult to talk to, and they can just kind of like let loose and do real talk. Right. And this guy and I had a blast, like between the curry and the falafel. I think there was like 6 rapid fire puns fired off. And then it was, Skipper, I don't even know her. It's just he set the entree down, and I was like, I can see you're trying to curry my favor with this. And
oh my God.
He was like, I'm trying to rise up to the occasion. And then it was really magical. And I made sure to give him a cast compliment, like in the app,
I love that.
That's amazing.
It was really great.
And a good cast member, I think, can size up the guests too, because they probably would know right off the bat, okay, well, I can't really make jokes with this, and she's tired, she's quiet, whatever, versus, okay, we're going to have some fun here.
Like, this is good.
And, and so... Good.
Yeah.
So, all right, now obviously let's talk about food and wine, because I think that was one of the reasons you wanted to go this fall, because you wanted to go to the Food and Wine Festival. And,
absolutely.
And I've done food and wine by myself, at least for an afternoon. being able to zip around to the different booths and kind of eat at your own pace, quickly, slowly, visiting with the one you want without having to consult with anybody. You want to stop? Right. Anything? I mean, you want to stop? Okay, well, I want this one. Okay, you're going to go over to get that. Okay, well, we'll meet up. It's just like, you know what? I'm going to stop here. Nah, I'm skipping this one.
Yeah.
And now, did you try everything from every booth? I know that was an early goal for you, which was a very lofty goal to do.
That would be impressive.
I did not. So I know there's two schools of thought out there. People have these very strong opinions about where you should start on the World Showcase.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I will say, I should have started in Mexico. That's where I should have started, because that the afternoon sun gets so hot on that side. If you're going left and you're going toward Mexico and Germany and all that stuff, there's no shade to be had there. Right. So by the time I had started in France and made my way around, I was like, it's too hot to eat. I don't want any. And it was a really hot day with no clouds. Like no clouds. Man. So I was like, I should have started in Mexico. Now the cast members were lovely. There was a gentleman named Ben who worked in the lobby at Pop. And I went down there to ask him a question. I can't even remember what the question was now, but we had this great 20-minute conversation at the concierge desk. And he was like, you got to try the Viking coffee in this pavilion. And you've got to try, if you're doing food and wine, like these were the things that were my favorite. And he was so helpful and it was so kind, but I don't know if I would have been able to eat. It's like the Haleo deal. Like you're hungry at first, so you eat the entire thing, and then as the day goes on, it's like 2 bites of one bite of each thing. And then you kind of have to play like some math, right? You're like, well, yes, I came down here to try everything, but like, is it really responsible of me to buy a $9 thing and then eat a bite of it?
Right.
Sometimes, yes, like, hey, that was the whole purpose. And then sometimes you're like, no, that doesn't make sense,
So some of your favorites,
yes,
like when you went around, people listening to this maybe headed to Food and Wine and they kind of wondering what to get. I mean, just because you have a broad palette from a lot of things you've tried, obviously running a restaurant, what are some of your favorites and maybe some don't miss kind of dishes?
Okay, well, so I know you and I will agree here. The cheddar bacon soup with the pretzel bread.
Oh my gosh, yes.
From Canada, right?
Yes.
Like that's, I'd had it before. I'd had it at Le Cellier. I already knew that I liked it and I was going to eat it anyway. It wasn't about experiencing anything new, but it was like, yes, even though it feels like it's 1,000 degrees outside, yes, I'm going to eat this right now.
Yes.
That was where I started. Don't miss the beef bourguignon from France. It's right outside Remy's. It's like the little kiosk there is like kind of catty corner from Chefs de France. Really delicious. I've had creme brulee. I know I like creme brulee. So I wanted to see their spin on bourguignon. They call them potato puffs, but actually what they are is pommes dauphinoise, which is like, it's like a really airy, puffy potato fritter. They were done so well and the beef was super tender. So don't miss that. The pastel imposible in Mexico was guava, flan, and tres leches. Like that thing was it was ridiculous. It was so good. And it comes out super frosty cold. So when it's hot, right?
Nice.
That feels really good.
It is.
Yeah.
As it is in Florida, like it was really refreshing. Don't miss I realized when I got home, I didn't even post. I had the raclette, which is like the hot Swiss cheese that they'll take like a hot spatula and melt it right off the wheel. That was,
I've seen that.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Over near Germany. It was ridiculous. It was so good. It was so good. Don't miss those items. And then this is going to be a hot take, but like the pickle shake is really good. It's really good.
I've heard that. It's not overwhelmingly pickle. Like it's got a pickle. It's a pickle. But it's not like, oh my gosh, all I'm drinking is liquefied pickle. It's like, oh, there's a hint of pickle in here. So I do want to try that.
So there's some fresh dill on top of the whipped cream, and the candy sprinkles are really fun because they're made to look like mustard seeds on top. And I'm like, okay, the theming on this is already, and you get to keep the cup. It's super cute, but it's not so much dill pickly as it's just kind of tangy on the back end. I don't know. But it's vanilla forward. I think you would really like it. It's just a super fun concept. And I think, they weren't going for like, let's make this taste like a dill pickle.
And that's over at the Brew Lab, which is like that. That's I don't say this much during Food and Wine, but that's an area that I want to visit. Not just the food, but I want to see that little area. It just looks cool.
Oh, there's like Muppets theming, and they come like Beaker and Bunsen Honeydew will come over the intercoms every once in a while, and there's like TV screens. It's super cute. I'm a huge Muppets fan, so really well done there. And I wanted to try every single wing, but I made the mistake of ending my day there, and I was just very, very full.
Right.
So
here's the question, and you can be honest: is there anything that you tried that you're like, I don't know that I would get that again? It just, or maybe it's something maybe disappointed. It looked good on the menu, but and obviously personal opinion. Somebody out there may love these dishes, but anything that just kind of just wasn't what you wanted.
Yeah. So Kenya this year has like coffee rubbed barbecue beef, and it comes on top of a millie pop, which is like, it's a porridge there. So you can think kind of a mix between like a polenta and grits, like really leaning into like a sweet potato corn type deal.
Good.
Yeah, it sounds great on paper. It was really poorly executed. It's the beef was, I mean, to the point where I was using a trash can as a table, like you do in Epcot, and right. And so I was talking to a couple, and we got to talking, and they asked me why I was there and everything else. And they're like, "What is this one?" And so I recited it off the menu. I took one bite and threw it in the trash. It was just terrible.
And there are those dishes that are great on paper. But
and those don't make it back the next year.
I think somebody thought this was a really good idea, but it just didn't land well. And it wasn't me being picky as a chef. It was just like me being, the meat didn't have any flavor. I couldn't taste the coffee. It was tough. Like it wasn't done well. So I hope they recover next year with something else at that stand. So
nice.
I think that was really the only thing that I didn't care for. There were some dishes that were mind-blowingly good, like the crispy curry cheese in India was really good. And I'm sure that the stuff from the Japan pavilion was great too, but I couldn't make my way to ramen. I was like, it's so hot. I cannot. I was like, I cannot stand here and eat ramen. Like, can't do it. So I was like, it's too hot.
Awesome. Any final thoughts on? Because I have one more food thing to ask you about. But any final thoughts on food and wine? Anything that we didn't cover that you want to kind of throw in there by the whole experience?
It's a great experience, and if you've never been, I do recommend completing the Emil's fromage montage. You get a free little stemless wine glass, and your prize at the end of it's really fun to get the stamps. Like, it's something interactive to do, and it's a goal to work toward, not just like making yourself super full. But I would recommend, if it's your first time there, walk around the entire World Showcase first. Like, first you can get your steps in, right? You can figure out exactly where you want to visit and kind of have a game plan, because it looks different. You'll have the passport, right? You can pick those up anywhere, but you're going to form an idea in your head of what you think something might be. And you're not going to know until you walk past a booth and see it, and you won't know like how big it is or what it looks like, or, if it's appealing, because you eat with your eyes and the words can only go so far. So if I had it to do over again, I would definitely do that. But and also complete that challenge, because first of all, you have to order 5 cheese-based things, which was awesome. And then and the cup is really cute, and the prize is like a strawberry soft serve with a chunk of cheesecake on top. Like, who doesn't want that?
I feel
like this is like a win every single way.
It was so good.
The last thing I want to ask you about is Woody's Roundup. Rodeo Roundup Barbecue over in Hollywood Studios. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I believe you sent me a message that said basically you asked the server to try everything, and they brought everything out to you. It's a prefix menu. It's one price.
Yeah.
And although they will tell you on the menu, you've got to pick one of these, 2 of these, whatever. It's really, and maybe they'll change this later because it's such a new restaurant, but it really is like they'll bring you everything if you ask for it. And
they will.
You got to ask for it. So give us a review on that restaurant. How much did you love it? Did you like it or not? I mean, the food.
I loved it. So I had a reservation there on Tuesday. This past Tuesday night. I had a late reservation. I had a really early day at the parks, and I had a Ronto wrap and took a nap. You guys will always recommend, like, take a little break from the park. You have to take a little break for some AC and to hydrate and everything else. So all that to say, I was very hungry by the time I got there, which is good. I think you should show up to every meal hungry, or you should figure out how to be hungry if you're not.
Yeah.
Right? But So it was super kind. Like the server said, hey, that's no problem. I explained what I did for a living. And I said, look, I understand if you can't, but could you bring me like a piece of every meat just so I could try it? So I even ended up with the cedar plank salmon that's down at the bottom. So for people who don't eat pork, or maybe you don't eat red meat for whatever reason. I thought the ribs and brisket were fantastic. The chicken, a little bit strange. I'm a parts gal, so I like to have like a drumstick or like a thigh. This was they cut through the middle of this chicken in some odd way that was just like through the breastbone, and there was still a wishbone, and I was just like, I don't want to navigate this. But the chicken tasted great, but it was just like odd, as a chef. I was just like, this is odd. This is an odd presentation. The sausage was a bratwurst style. I'm not huge on bratwurst. Like in Texas, if you're having barbecue, it's usually like jalapeno cheddar or like a smoked sausage. It's just a different flavor profile, right? Like, and everybody's going to have what they like. I was really impressed by the plant-based offerings.
Really?
I'm not a vegan, but I'm super intrigued by what chefs can do and how realistic they can make things. And all the plant-based stuff will get a bad rap, right? Because people will go like, why do vegans want everything to taste like meat? Well, it's not necessarily about that. Like you could eat a block of tofu, but it's not going to taste good, but these things are really inventive and delicious. And so they had the combat Carlo flour, and the theming in this restaurant was insane. Like the booth backs were like puzzle pieces and crayons, and it was really amazing. But the cauliflower was great. The plant-based bratwurst was really good, but I was really impressed by the rip roaring rib chop, which was made with Impossible. So that's a meat substitute, but it looked like a giant chicken drumstick, and it had a bone in it that was made out of sugarcane. It was amazing. And it was so good that I ate the entire thing, even though I was trying to taste everything else. I actually had to I shoved it to one other end of the table at some point, was like, you can't eat this. And then I went back to it because I have zero willpower. The potato salad is mayo based. Like if you're going there and you're from the South and you're used to the mustard kind, just know that it's like mayonnaise based. It's a little bit different. It was really good. The married spuds, I asked my server, I was like, are these like the tachos like in the rest of Toy Story Land, or at Woody's Lunchbox? And she was like, no, they have green goddess and cheese sauce, which I thought sounded a little bit odd. That was another thing that I had to push to the other end of the table so that I would stop eating it. They're that I could taste it. They were so
interesting. I never would have put those two things together.
I so good. Love a good tater tot, and
so good.
Yeah, the sauces are great. I do.
The campfire vegetables were seasoned really well, cooked perfectly. The biscuits, good Lord. Like I was afraid I wasn't going to make it to the rest of my meal. The biscuits with the pepper jelly are just ridiculous. Like they're so good. They're flaky and soft. Huge biscuit. The pepper jelly was amazing. The beans are baked beans. If you've had a baked bean, you've had a baked bean. Like not good, not bad. They're just beans. The grilled street corn, stupid good. Like so good.
Yes.
My only criticism of this entire meal is I love fried pickles, and when you get the spears, they always come out of the breading. Like if these had been if these had been pickled chips, I would have probably destroyed
all those
an entire bowl of those two and just rolled out of there. But the salads, hey Disney, you're leaning really hard into the word salad when it's like a whole bowl of watermelon and like one piece of mint does not a salad make. But I get what they were going for, but I was like, this is what? So watermelon is great. That's another thing. Like if I'd eaten an entire bowl of watermelon, it wouldn't have room for anything else.
Right.
But it was really fresh and really good. Tomato, cucumber, onion salad. Like can't say anything bad about it. The romaine kale salad was a little bit odd to me. The apples felt like a little bit of an afterthought. I think if they just chopped them up smaller and mixed them in there, they're just kind of like throwing on top. But hey, you know what? It didn't slow me down either. I ate plenty of that too. So it's great. And I was really like pleasantly surprised also that it comes with a drink. Not every prefix menu or all you care to enjoy concept at Disney comes with a beverage. And so I thought that was really neat too.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. These The desserts were good there too, and honestly, they I saw like the Forky cupcake was the one they kept showing as because they had little Forky design, whatever.
Yeah.
That was probably my least favorite dessert. I mean, it's a cupcake, it's okay. But the rest of them they serve in these like little jars, almost like tiny mason jars, and they serve with there's all kinds of apple stuff, and there's chocolate, whatever. And they brought all of those out, and we tried all of those, and they were delicious. And I had some of everything, and probably had a couple of them.
Yep.
It's a great restaurant for families. It is like a family of 4 or 5, even 6 people, because there is something there for kind of for everybody. Which is great.
There really is. I'm not like a huge, if you're going cake versus pie, I'm probably always going to choose pie, but I dearly love Forky as a character. And so I'm trash. He's so cute. And so I did try every dessert too. I thought the lemon blueberry was a standout. Apple pie, I'm like, I've had apple pie in my life. It was well done, but it's just nothing that gets me excited. But the cupcake part was actually really good because it was moist. And the sugar cookie was delicious. But that's always my disappointment when it comes to cupcakes and cakes. But if you think that you're going to pick that cupcake up and eat it out of the wrapper, you're sadly mistaken. You have got to eat it with a fork. It's crumbly. It's crumbly and it's really moist. But even the plant-based offering was really fantastic. The peach raspberry was really good, or the peach strawberry, excuse me. Yeah. Really,
and I love that you tried everything. I think that's
I love that
because again, I don't know that they'll do that, long term, but it's great that you can do that at that restaurant.
Yeah.
Because
and one of the cooks came out and wanted to meet me, and I wanted to meet them. That was a really, really special moment. Cool. And it was one of those times too where I got called a toy coming in. That's kind of like part of the theming, right? But then that cast member was able to break character, and we were able to talk about like being in the service industry, and it was probably like I think it was just as special for them as it was for me. And it was really a really, really cool experience. And it was, and you should have seen, I was seated at a little bitty table for 2, right? As I was one person dining.
Right.
Every family in there was staring like, how much more food are they going to take? Like,
oh my gosh, that's so
how many more things are going to go on that table? It's like a stacking bowls by the end of the meal. And it was an incredible experience.
That's the sign of a good meal. Yeah. Whenever you have it.
It's really, really good.
All right. I have to know so far, and I know you probably haven't eaten every restaurant on property. Do you have a favorite so far of like, this is my favorite so far?
So we didn't even get to discuss Tiffin's, but I think that was the standout. I got the shrimp and grits, and the stuffed dates were just ridiculous. Like I was like scrape, as my grandmother was said, I was trying to scrape the flowers off the plate. Like I the design, the table next. Now I'm one of those people that Dave is one of those folks that will read the IMDb for a movie, right? Find out all the things. Yep. I'm one of those people that looks at menus. I was looking at the menus months in advance. I had a plan of what I was going to order. I sat down. It all went out the window. The excitement of the day, everything. I was just like, oh, I can't believe I'm here. This is amazing. And I was planning on ordering they have like a whole fried sustainable fish.
Yes, I've seen that presented before. Yeah.
So it was sea bass, not sea bass. Oh gosh, it was striped bass that day. So a smaller version, right, of sea bass. I just decided I wasn't in the mood to tackle it. I didn't want to eat anything that was looking at me. Usually it doesn't weird me out, but I was just like, it's been a long morning. Like I don't want to, do that. But the server was fantastic. He helped some ladies at the table next to me, like take it all off the spine. And it was in this beautiful, like coconut curry sauce. And I like curry a lot, in case y'all haven't figured it out. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, but it smelled and looked amazing. But yeah, the shrimp and grits. Oh my gosh.
I love a good shrimp and grits.
Good. It was so good.
I mean, as long as it's not too spicy, I love a good shrimp and grits.
Honestly, so good.
It was so good. I wished I finished my meal with a double espresso. I had lots of things I wanted to do.
Right.
Even though Animal Kingdom might seem like a shorter day, I just had a lot of things that I wanted to do, and I needed a little boost. And I knew that I was going to end up getting a dessert at some point later in the day, like a snack type dessert. And I was like, okay, I don't want to, but that's a place I want to go back to and try everything on the menu.
I have not been to Tiffin's yet. I've been to the nearby Nomad Lounge.
It's so good.
Finally got there.
The service too. It was incredible.
I would say Tiffin's is one of those that, like, again, not everybody maybe is into all of the cuisine there. I have never had a bad meal at Tiffin's. Like every single thing I have ever eaten there has been fantastic, including the bread service, because I mean, who doesn't love bread?
So last thing as you start wrapping up, Melissa, as a solo traveler, do you have any tips for anybody who's thinking about taking a trip on their own by themselves? Maybe they've been a couple of times or haven't been in a while. What are some tips from your perspective of things you learned as a solo traveler?
Well, first, don't worry about having enough time to get through the parks. Like, you will have plenty of time. I nearly rode everything by 3:00 every single day. That's awesome. Disney is very, very kind to single folk. You will get like the front of every ride. Now, I'm not saying that's a guarantee, but they work very hard to make you feel like you're not othered, right? For being alone. They're very much like, where would you like to be? And they will find a way to seat everybody in the attractions. You know, that's fair, right? Like, think of a family of 3, and if you need 4 people for this ride, like, you might get bumped to the front of the line. That's what happened to me a lot. I'm not saying that's going to be everybody's experience, but don't feel like timid or nervous about going on things by yourself. And the single rider line, I rode Test Track 4 times in a row. Like, I just ran. I ran from the exit to get back on it. I didn't even build a car times 2. I was like, no, forget it. We don't have time for this. Like, I just want to get back on it. I'm going to feel the wind in my hair, you know? So don't be timid or nervous. I felt incredibly safe. I think it's a good idea to, let somebody know where you are, have the location turned on between like you and a loved one or you and a friend, at least that way, if anything happens, right? Definitely make sure you are hydrating. It's one thing to be in a group of people, right? And not feel well and kind of have that support system. But if you're by yourself, sometimes you're going to have to rely on the kindness of strangers. And sometimes, you're just going to have to advocate for you. So do all the same things that you would do in a group, right? Like carry your hydration, wear your sunscreen. It's easy when you're by yourself to think like, I got this. And maybe all the same rules don't apply, but they do. Like, you have to self-care, super duper important. If you're traveling alone, because you have the benefit of moving quickly and not having to consult anybody else, right? Like, don't overdo it. Don't overdo it in a day. That's like good. It'll all be there. And because you can move faster, like, you might get to see everything in a day. I know, Animal Kingdom is like a 1-day park, right? But, but Magic Kingdom might not be, but figure out what's important to you. And then you can make it like a 1-day park. Like, for me, breakfast wasn't important. I couldn't figure out in my head how I was going to rope drop and also eat Mickey waffles at the resort, because the resort opened at 7 and I need to be at the bus at 6:45. And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to make that happen. So I was like, okay, what's important to me? Well, what was important to me might not be as important to anybody else, but I ended up doing bagels and peanut butter in the room. I was running from, and you can take the plastic bag off the coffee cups. Those are sealed for you to use, right? In the room. Jen's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. We have breakfast reservations every day. There's a couple of things though that you can do to make it go faster if that's what you want to do. Or you can be as leisurely as you want. But I was like running from flights of passage with a peanut butter bagel in my mouth that I had in a clean plastic bag, Right. It's like, you gotta figure out what's important to you. And then just be kind to yourself. Like, if you're going alone, I feel like you're treating yourself on purpose, right? Like, that's the kind of the idea is like, I'm going to treat myself. Well, don't overdo it. Like, you can go back. That's the beauty of, I'm already planning my next trip in my head, So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, Jen's never truly alone on a trip because she always has her servants with her to throw the rose petals down and
she's her entourage.
Yeah, exactly. And so she's like, dear, I am very warm right now. Hello, geez, please, water.
And it's the same thing that you both tell clients, right? Be ready for the unexpected. Like, everything's not going to go perfectly. I didn't plan on being. I mean, it was a downpour at about 7:30 that went all the way to 9:00 in Magic Kingdom. Well, guess what? That meant super short lines for everything.
Oh yeah.
If you find yourself in Adventureland without a shelter, those umbrellas at the cheeseburger spring roll cart, Those extend the velvet rope just enough where you can get under them. I didn't get to try the spring rolls this time, but they're on the list for next time. But everything's not going to go the way you thought. I had a really old poncho in my bag. Guess what? It failed within the first 15 minutes. I wasn't planning on that contingency, but now I have like a really beautiful one from Emporium, and it has like the characters on it.
Yes. Now you have a nice thick one.
I mean, you can never prepare for a black bear closing half the park because there's no tree.
Oh my gosh!
Big
right.
Thunder. So yes,
it sounds,
expect the unexpected. It's Florida.
It sounds like I missed it just barely. So
just barely.
Look at you joining the Pun Cup. I love it.
The Pun Cup? What?
Melissa, of course, the host of the Food for ThoughtCast, coming out every Thursday as well. So you can listen to our cast and her cast at the same time. Well, not the same time, but one after the other because they're right there together. So great podcast, by the way. It's a lot of fun. And I always go back to early June, episode 15 and 16, which is a 2-part episode about how to read a menu. All those really crazy terms that you don't understand. Like, I don't understand what I'm reading sometimes. And I'm like, I don't know what this means. And I love the fact that Melissa just breaks it down. Like, here's what this means. Here's what that means. Here's what, this, when you see this, it's layered with this kind of sauce. Here's what that means. And so I love it. I think it's great. So, running your own restaurant and everything. Melissa, how can people find you on the interwebs?
So on Instagram, I'm at the Food for ThoughtCast, and also on Facebook. And like David said, the episodes will drop every Thursday. We got some fun ones coming up. It was National Cheeseburger Day yesterday. We're going to look at the history of hamburgers and cheeseburgers and kind of the biggest and best out there and the facts and tidbits and trivia. I'm going to do some superstitious foods for Halloween, of course, and where foods come from. And then one I'm looking forward to the most is Vittles La Revolucion, which is going to be Revolutionary War foods. That'll be super fun.
That's going to be really fun.
Disney and travel kind of gives itself. You actually have to do research on this, so I'm impressed by that.
Like, dang.
Last question, because we forgot to ask at the top of the interview, how did you Disney this week? And of course, it's easy to say, well, I went on a trip, but
I got this super cute mug.
I love it.
Oh, he's adorable.
So I am drinking coffee out of that today. I may or may not have had Werther's caramel popcorn for breakfast for the last 2 days that I brought home with me.
No judgment.
That's absolutely how I am doing Disney this week. So
that's absolutely a breakfast food also.
I'm pretending that I'm still there. Also, the Joffrey's coffee is super delicious, and you can totally take those home. Just because it's in a single serve pouch doesn't mean that you can't break the pouch open and put it in your coffee filter if you have a drip coffee maker. So I have been drinking Joffrey's coffee all week. I have like 15 more of them because they'll just give it to you if you ask. So
you will.
Melissa, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Thanks for having me on. I really had a blast.
Absolutely. We'll have you on again. We will talk more food,
definitely.
more Disney and stuff. And so
awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks. That's a wrap for today. Until the next episode of the Food for ThoughtCast, make good food, eat good food, share it, and be kind to one another.
Thanks so much for listening today. You are part of what makes us special, and we are so glad you joined us. Don't forget to rate, subscribe, and leave a review. Just like food, delicious podcasts are better when you share them with others. Come back for seconds wherever podcasts are served. And we'll catch you in the next episode of the Food for ThoughtCast.
You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at the Food for ThoughtCast or at www.foodforthoughtcast.com, where you can link to all podcast players, or you can send us an email at foodforthoughtcmc@gmail.com.